Hi Jack, we're going to have a look at your code today and just sort of try to make sense of, I think the question was about this fetch all and the way in which data is collected from your database and sort of trying to be able to handle it. So it's what fetch all does and how that data is stored. Just before we do that, it is worth us having a little look at just what a tuple is. So I think I'm just going to go through an array first of all, and we'll just put in some nonsense so you can see what that is. Just recap on how that works a little bit. I know you know this stuff, but it's quite good when you're trying to get your head around something new to just sort of link it with stuff that you already know. So we know what an array looks like, how that works. It's really nice. We've got a group of variables under one identifier, which is really useful, and we can also, they're also indexed, you know, their order is important, and we can fetch particular items out of it. So I can go x1 and just run through that and I get what I want. Arrays are said to be mutable, and that really just means that you can change them. So I could say something like this: x0 is equal to, and something completely different like 5 or whatever, and I can print out the whole of x, and you can see it's changed. So those things are said to be mutable. You can change them. It's not always brilliant, and sometimes it, you know, if you've got some data and you just want to be able to read it, same as if you're reading a file, you want to kind of limit the what the program can do. You want to restrict it and just say, look, I just want to read it. And I'll show you what I mean with arrays. They can be they can behave in a way which is sort of quite surprising. So if you had something like this, let's say y is equal to x, and you changed it, and you then print off y, that seems fine. Let's just change y. Just have a look at that bit of code there. So we've got x is 1, 2, 3, y is the same as x, and I've changed y. I've changed array y now, so it says 5 there. We run through it and it's changed. What is maybe surprising for some people is that if you now have a look at x is also changed. And so one of the problems that you have with arrays is that they can be, when you're first starting off with them, they can be a little bit unpredictable, and it's a good idea that if you've got data that you don't actually want to change, to use a tuple rather than an array, because that won't change. You cannot change them. And so in the same way that we'd sort of say, you know, go for read file rather than write, you know, because you just want to keep it to reading a file, we can store our data in a tuple and it won't change. So this kind of thing now, just show you this in action. This is, you treat it just the same way as you do an array. It is a collection of variables under one identifier that's indexed, so you can pick things from it. So it seems almost the same as an array, but it has this one difference to it, and that is that if you tried to do something like this, I'm going to change this bit, let's say to, if I'm going to assign a value 5 to the first element of this and then print off at x, it's not going to let you do it, and that can be quite useful actually. It's not going to support that. So just in the same way that we would say, oh, you know, if you're just reading a file, go read file, in the same way that we're handling data and we just want to read and extract data, we would maybe store it in a tuple rather than an array. Just notice something with this, that if you leave a comma just after the first one, it still treats it as a tuple, you know. So if you have 1, say, and then a comma, you've got that entire tuple. It's not a problem. Just imagine, well, it is a tuple, it is a bit like an array, and I can just pick out the first thing from it. So I would go just in the same way that you pick an element from an array, you can pick an element from a tuple and run it that way. Okay, so it does the same thing. Python's nice like that. It tends to, you know, doesn't, the data type could be something like hello, you know, string, sorry, and then it's still going to do that kind of thing with it. Strings are immutable. We can't change strings as well. So, you know, if you're trying to do this kind of thing, is equal to, let's just put capital H, just out of interest. It's not going to let you do that. So strings are a bit like tuples. You can't actually change them, but you can get information from them. When it comes to fetch all, just to try to understand what fetch all is doing, it is collecting an array of tuples. Now then, I'm just going to open up the DB browser for a minute. It's worth getting this if you haven't got it already. I'm going to open up your database so we can have a look at it and just browse through some of the data. We'll have a look at this table called topic, and that gives us a description of what's happening. You've got 4 records, and in each record we've got 3 different attributes: topic ID, topic name, amount of questions. So when it comes to using fetch all, the way it works is like this. In your select part, where it says select topic name, you could have selected other things from there as well, like for instance amount of questions, and then it would also have those things in as well. I think it's a good idea, when you've got your array, just to sort of print it off and sort of get a feel for what it looks like. We're going to print off the entire array so we kind of know the structure of the data that we get when we use fetch all, just to sort of have a look at it. You can see just at the top here you've got an array of tuples. The array is an element, is a set of records, and you've, in this select statement here in this SQL, we're actually choosing all the records because there's no where part of it. You're not sort of saying where such and such, you just want all of them. You can actually as well just pick out every single attribute that you want in there. We use the wildcard asterisk just to say all of them, and I think it's sort of starting to make a bit of sense now what the format of fetch all is. It's an array, and it goes through each record that is in the SQL statement in the query, and it picks out each record. But not only that, it produces all the attributes that you want, and of course it's got to group them together, so that's why they put it as a tuple. When it comes to you handling that, you treat it like a 2-dimensional array, all right? Because you've got to see these tuples as the same as an array, except they are immutable. That's all. And don't worry about that. It just means your code's more robust. It's not liable to sort of start changing data. Like arrays can be a little bit awkward, but I can just pick out things. So I'm going to pick out, for instance, the topic ID here. When we come to print that off, you can see the topic IDs. I can select the bits that I want. Let me get rid of that print array because it's distracting. Or I could, in your case, what you want actually is the topic names. So just treat it like a 2-dimensional array. You've got an array of tuples, which is very much like an array of arrays. Even if you've only got one thing in your sort of 2-dimensional array. So here we'll go back to topic name. It's not a problem. You can, that's out of range there. That won't work. Let's just go back and see the array of tuples. So each tuple, and just say, well, I just want the first thing. Well, there's only one thing in there, multiplication. So you can just put a 0 there as well. So the answer is fetch all produces a 2-dimensional array. It's just that the arrays inside the array you can't change them. They're immutable. They're tuples. Okay, so hopefully that makes a bit of sense. So in other words, when you use fetch all, it is up to you then how you iterate through it, how you collect the data, and what you do with it after you've fetched it all. And we like that. We like the fact that you could do that. Okay, that's enough waffle from me. Hopefully that's going to help you out. Looks really good. I think your code's really great. I love the fact that you've kind of using those ideas from abstract methods. Is great. It's really, really good. So keep at it, Jack. It looks great. Okie doke. That is enough from me, I think.